injury, 10-day IL, surgery, injury, option to AAA, out for 2 to 3 days, rehabbing, throwing on the side. They think 2024. Another injury. Trip to the IL. Hitting under 200. Whew. Not good. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, the Yankees are broken. End April in a horrible fashion. Dropped 3 series in a row, and starting in May, find themselves in last place. So, Yankees not in a good place, but scary of all. Get a haymaker, I guess from the baseball gods, Aaron Judge, going to the IL. You know, now it's not super serious, only a 10-day IL. But again, the Yankees are in big trouble because, you know, not that the lineup was doing good with him in it, but now with him out of it, Yankees struggling. The bench is not there. The rest of the hitters aren't really helping out, and the Yankees are kind of a bit of big trouble that. So we're going to use this episode to kind of look into, you know, really what went wrong with this team. Kind of, you know, everything was sitting pretty early part of April, but kind of really ended April in bad fashion. So we'll kind of pick apart the team with what's really going wrong here. Got to get caught up in injuries, some new surgeries coming around the corner. You know, the Yankees always have a few of those every week, so we'll kind of get you caught up with all that. Plus, as you can imagine, a lot of Yankee fans are upset with Brian Cashman right now. Again, because we'll get into this way. The lineup is very flat. The bench is very flat. So, you know, everyone's always going to now put their targets on Cashman for that. So, you know, we've done this in some past episodes. So I'll read you some real fan tweets of Brian Cashman. Does, you know, I just basically went into the Twitter, went to the search, went Brian Cashman, pull those up. So I'll read a few of those to you, and I'll react to them, whether I agree with the person or not, kind of break that all down. So we'll get into all this great stuff. Before we get the car started, before we get the engine started, don't worry, we're not on the IL. We're still running good, strong here. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast version of the show here. So there's additional stuff that you don't have to see in here. You can be here. So wherever you go get your favorite podcast, go Section 420 Talkin Yankees. And I do a little more quick wrap-ups after every little series, and plus give it little other things like stories and other Yankee history and other stuff like that. It's only exclusive for you podcast subscribers. So instead of waiting a whole week or 2 weeks to get a new episode, just go sign up to the podcast and get to hear me a little more frequently, a little bit more often. So the team's in a really bad place, you know, not only just the brand of baseball they're playing right now, but of course their standings in the AL East. So I'll say, you know, we'll get into that a little bit later because that is important, but really the headline is that Aaron Judge getting his first trip to the IL, something he pretty much did a good job avoiding last season when he was kind of, you know, having the magical 62 home run season, of course playing for the big contract. Unfortunately, you know, an IL stint early of this 2023 season. Now, it wasn't for the reason we initially thought it would be. If you recall, it was during the Minnesota series, the last game there, where the Yankee offense finally woke up. And, you know, yeah, you lost the series 2 games out of 3, but, you know, you got a little happy that in that final game, yes, finally the Yankees won 1 there. They dodged getting swept, which is obviously something you don't want to do. Plus, that's the fact the Yankee offense broke out, scored 11 runs. But in that game, Judge on second base tried to steal third, which, you know, the Yankees up at that point, like almost like 5-0. So it was a little bit unnecessary. I know you want to be aggressive and always put runs up there, but it was almost like an unnecessary steal attempt. But he did try, slid in there. Now he went in with his hand and initially grimaced a little bit. Obviously it was cold out, so he kind of just ran to the dugout real quick. A lot of Yankee fans like, uh-oh, you hold your breath there, because I mean, now it turned out to be a hip injury, but you know, something with a hand injury that is actually probably even more serious, and that's what I read into initially. Now he just bandaged it up and he was right back out there, and supposedly the anger and the grimace on his face was really more, he was just upset that he got called out more than anything. So he bandaged his hand up, stayed in the game, and still contributed. So, you know, Yankee fans at the time breathed a little sigh of relief. But then when the Yankees after that moved down to Texas, and in the first game there, the second inning, he took a, you know, he swung at a pitch and he didn't feel right. And then by the 4th inning, his hip was balking on him. Actually took himself out of the game, and it was kind of sat out the remaining 3 games of that Texas series. And then, you know, they did an MRI, and plus, you know, he tried to give it a go in that first game against the Guardians. You know, actually was in batting practice, took some swings there, and I guess after the swings, Boone and Judge and I guess the team doctor, whoever, all got together and decided the best thing for him is put him on the 10-day injured reserve list for a hip strain. Now, it's retroactive, so again, since Judge missed those final 3 games of the Texas series, he could come back sooner than the normal 10-day span there, so will remain to be seen. But you know how these injuries go. It's always a little bit more than they always tell us. Like, for example, you know, they told us Rendon will be ready to go and Severino will be ready to go by late April. Well, April's already gone and passed, and we're still waiting on them. Now, at some point, they are going to come back relatively soon, but still. So if they say 10 days, you know it's going to be a little bit more than that. And it's just, you know, it's kind of scary right now because with the offense really now is, even with him in it, was really laboring. I know they had that 11-run outburst in Minnesota, but before that and after that, it's been putrid scoring runs with him. And mainly, of course, you see, you know, really with the loss of Giancarlo Stanton, the protection he was giving Judge in the lineup, well, obviously now pitchers didn't have to pitch to Judge as much. They could pitch around him. They could fine-tune pitches, and Judge is not really getting the same pitches to hit, and really just, it's kind of filtering up and down. You know, Rizzo's really dropped. The last episode when I went to Yankee Stadium was kind of giving accolades where, yeah, a couple of weeks ago you looked up, he was hitting 344. Well, he's kind of dipped much lower than that right now, so he's taking a hit. DJ's only hitting around 250, which is not really the DJ LeMahieu we remember back, you know, 2-3 years ago. So it's kind of going up and down the lineup there. But, you know, again, Judge, you know, he's worried about, you know, the hip. You know, obviously it doesn't seem like something it's going to linger a little bit. So, you know, if there is an injury, that's kind of one you would be okay with in a way. You don't want an oblique. You don't want anything with the hand, the finger, the wrist. Those are bad. Anything with UCL, ACL, stuff like that. So, you know, if you are to take an injury, it's probably not the worst one in the world. And, you know, and it's just, you know, Judge, you know, I don't think it has anything with him, you know, do with, like, you know, him being overused, playing center field like that. Obviously, there's a bad break on you know, trying to steal the base there at third base in Minnesota. And so he's going to be out for a while. And, you know, the Yankees are just going to have to find a way to scratch some runs just because, you know, the offense really has been struggling. And, you know, you're going to have some pieces coming back soon that should help. It seems like Beta's just around the corner. I think that will help a little bit. But, again, until Judge comes back and really when Giancarlo Stanton comes back, it's going to be a while before we see this Yankee offense really be fluid again. And so they're going to have other guys step up, whether it's DJ LeMahieu or Gleyber Torres needs to pick it up, who had a great start to the season, tape it off a little bit. But, again, he has to be probably one of the people that really needs to step up his game there to make up for the loss of Judge. So the expectations of this team when we started the season to where they are now is huge gap there. So 29 games in, only 1 game above 500 at 15-14. And again, that's not really something any Yankee fan expected coming in. Again, starting May, in last place there, kind of tied with the Boston Red Sox for last place there. A place the Yankees haven't been since 2016. Ironically, that's like the first season of this show, just to show how long ago that was. But again, it's unfamiliar territory for the New York Yankees to be in last place after the first month of the season. And you remember the 2016 season was just kind of terrible there, where they basically, by midway, started trading off all the big pieces like Carlos Beltran and Chapman originally, and then kind of brought up Judge and the baby bombers. That's just how long ago that was. Now, I don't think this team's anywhere close to that. But again, they're in a bad place. And if you just look up, of course, we all know Tampa got off to the great start this season. So, yes, you expect to see them there in first place. But, you know, in second place, you know, at least, you know, start May, the Baltimore Orioles of all teams, 19-9. So even they're having a much better start of the season than the Yankees. So, now, again, you're going to have a lot of pieces coming back, so it's not something you go crazy with. You know, if you remember last season, the Yankees jumped out to a great start where by the halfway point, they were almost like 40 games over 500, and you look how they struggled in the second half there. So I think they could have, you know, things could change a little bit once they get some players back, so I wouldn't go too crazy. But the Yankees really have fallen to a place that none of us expected. You know, you figure stub your toe a little bit, maybe be in third place, but to be in last place at this point, not where Yankee fans expected. And you just look at the teams above them, whether it's Tampa, whether it's Toronto, and whether it's Baltimore. You know, there's playing a better brand, a more exciting brand of baseball, the Yankees right now. That is kind of the sluggish right now. Really, no one's hitting, and it kind of mentioned that a few minutes ago. But just look up and down the lineup. You just have anywhere really from the 5th place down to 9th place hitter. You just have pretty much automatic outs up and down the lineup. And it's not only Hicks, we kind of beat up on the last episode. Even someone we kind of like, the homegrown guy, Oswaldo Cabrera, only hitting about 200. Both Trevino and Higgy, they're pretty much automatic outs. The young guys, you know, Volpe will get into a little second because he has been hit a little bit better. But even Peraza hasn't been doing that great. So even though you would rather have him than Donaldson here, but again, he's not really contributing that much better than Donaldson would. So really there's no one in this lineup's hitting there. So that's what's really, you know, and it's putting pressure on the pitchers. And you've seen that even with Nestor Cortez, who's a steady Eddie, having 2 lousy starts. Of course, the one in Minnesota, but also getting absolutely rocked in Texas. So it's putting a lot of pressure on the pitching staff as well there. So that's why you're seeing all the hatred and all the anger towards Cashman right now, just because if you look at this team, you're supposed to have good backups for the backups, and again, it's not fair, but if you look at the 98 Yankees, they almost had too many good left fielders. You had Chad Curtis when he was good. You had Ricky Leday. You had Darryl Strawberry. You had Shane Spencer came up at the end of the year. You had a team that was absolutely loaded. So even if guys went down, you have people to back them up. On this team, you look at the backups. It's Willie Calhoun, and you had Cole Calhoun, who they have down in the minors. You have Franchi Cordero, who had a great start of the season, had some good home runs in Cleveland and Baltimore, but he's completely tapered off, not even hitting the home runs at all, and now butchering some balls in the outfield there. So you see all the solutions that Cashman brought up, even most recently. Jake Bauer, who we'll get into a little bit of a moment there, just try to find answers out there, but really nobody's hitting right now, and this is showing us why this team is in last place. And really, the only bright spot is Garrett Cole, who in 6 starts so far, his first 6 starts, 5 wins, and if you really look at it, he's more right now the MVP of this team than Aaron Judge is. Just the way he's had a great spring, great start of the season, and games not started by Garrett Cole, the Yankees are 9-14, so they're 5 games below 500 in games that don't involve Garrett Cole. So I think that'll improve a little bit as they get some more pitchers back. Obviously, putting Clark Schmidt out there is this, at this point, I don't know why they keep doing it. It's pretty evident that he's not a starting pitcher. He had some good flash in spring, but if you really look at the spring, he pitched to a 5 ERA, so it wasn't like he was dominant. He was great. And Schmidt, he only had really one good start, and it was in that start against the Blue Jays. Really, he should have won the game there. The Yankees kind of blew the lead late in the bullpen there for him, but that's the only game he pitched well. All these other ones, at some point, he'll go 4 or 5 innings sometimes. He'll pitch into the 5th, but he always has that inning where he's implode, and I think the Yankees we've seen enough of him where they should stop giving him starts. I like him. I think he's good as a middle reliever, and I think one of the solutions would be to take him out of the rotation, put someone else up there. I know I suggested last time, hey, maybe check under the hood with Madison Bumgarner there. Even if it costs you $500,000 just to find out, it's worth it. But even if you bring up some of the minors, I think even that would be better than Clark Schmidt right now. It's just every start you put him out there, it's almost a guaranteed loss. So I don't know why they keep doing it. Now, once Rodon Severino comes back, he's going to be gone. But obviously, why wait for them? You could do it right now because, again, once he starts the game, you could fill in a loss there. He's only good for maybe, again, middle relief, go 1 or 2 innings, maybe once in a while pitch a high leverage 7th inning. That's about it. But putting him out there for 5 innings, the results haven't been good. And again, every time he goes up, it's almost a guaranteed Yankee loss. So that's one solution the Yankees could to help them again win some games. Just by frankly not put him out there. Johnny Brito, I know he had a couple of bad losses. They're really the bad ones, that one Minnesota one, but at least he keeps the Yankees in the game more often than not. So I'm more comfortable with him than I am with Clark Schmidt. Now you might flipped on your TV screen and say, hey, who's this guy? There was a new Yankee there, Jake Bauers. No relation to Trevor Bauer. I believe that he's in Japan right now trying to resurrect his career. Nevertheless, and this kind of shows the bad luck the Yankees have injuries. So after the second Texas game where Franchi Cordero, who again hasn't been hitting lately, plus butchered the ball out in the field there. So I guess they had enough of him, sent him down to AAA, brought up Jake Bauers, who the Yankees had that in the minor league system. Now Bauers, last time he was in the majors was back in 2021 with the Seattle Mariners. So here's someone who hasn't really been a major leaguer steady Eddie for almost over 2 years now, and is a solution. So I don't know what they saw with him, but nevertheless want to give him a shot just because at this point you want to try anything. Now Bauers, similar to Franchi Cordero in terms of he's a left-handed hitter as well as a left-handed thrower, and he can do what Franchi Cordero can do, play first both the outfield as well as first base if need be. And again, just to show you this is kind of the way the Yankees have been lately. Right off the bat, the guy's here for like literally 5 minutes, a cup of coffee, and he already gets hurt. So a fly ball to left field, he makes a great diving play on the warning track, but kind of bangs his head and knee in the wall at the same time, and is kind of down for a while. And of course, probably more the concussion, if anything, to see if he might be concussed. Take him out of the game. Now they did an MRI on the knee. Turns out no structural damage, so good news there. And so I'm sure he'll be back in the mix soon. But just to go, you bring a fresh guy up here, and right away he's hurt. And again, not that you were expecting much out of the guy anyway, but again, he was just as another option just because, again, left field has just been very putrid for the Yankees. The combination of both Hicks as well as Oswaldo Cabrera hasn't really producing much. And Hicks, again, butchering balls in the outfield, in left field there. And again, I've defended it as much as I possibly could, but it's really getting ugly. And again, I just don't know how long the Yankees could keep going sending Hicks out there. Another reason why the Yankee offense has been struggling, kind of as mentioned a few minutes ago, is that I guess the new addition of the baby bombers, I'm talking about Barraza, Volpe, and Cabrera, really haven't been doing that great. I mean, really far below expectations. And we were excited for them in spring training. They were hitting well for the most part, but during the regular season, of course, when you're facing major league pitching on a consistent basis and scouting and stuff like that, much harder. And we just see really Volpe struggle mightily now. He has picked it up a little bit. So in the last 7 games to finish up April, did increase his batting average to 217, which is, hey, that's not great, it's 217, but in those last 7 games, did hit 304 with 7 hits and 4 RBIs, so picking it up a little bit in the bat, and maybe he's getting a little comfortable with it, and that's what the Yankees are going to need a little bit just to get things going. Now, I like the idea that Boone finally used him in the leadoff position more often. Again, has shown speed and a good good awareness on the bases there, so maybe that could be one of the solutions that helps the Yankees offense out a little bit, but he's got to hit a little bit more, as well as Cabrera, as well as Peraza, who's up here until they figure out what's going on with Donaldson. I feel like when Donaldson does come back, though, even though most fans are going to want Peraza, they're going to send him back down, and you'll see probably Donaldson back at third base. Now, for over the past year or so, Yankee fans have had a bit of a fantasy that Brian Reynolds will come here at some point and kind of solve the Yankees' left field problems. Well, of course, if you've even heard that that option is totally off the table. So the Pirates actually break out the bank, give him an 8-year extension at $106 million. It's actually the Pirates' biggest deal in the history of that franchise. For the Yankees, $106 million deal is kind of pocket change on the side. It's actually the franchise's biggest, so kind of sad at that point. But more importantly for the Yankees, obviously now he will not be an option at the trade deadline. With all that money, that's that guy you can't really. They won't even be looking to unload until maybe 3-4 years into that deal. Where maybe they're looking to all right, let's just dump this guy off, sell everybody off, and maybe they'll eat half the contract. But obviously, they're not going to do that in 2023. So again, if you think Brian Reynolds is going to come here at some point to save the Yankees and be their left field solution, that's not happening. That's not happening. And crazy enough, the Pirates actually stand, at least to start May, in first place in the NL Central with a 20-9 record. So this is how everything's gone top survey. As mentioned, the Baltimore Orioles start May at 19-9, and the Pirates are 1 game better than that at 20-9. And you look at the Pirates and the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, over the past 5 years, you can't think of 2 worse franchises. But right now, they're both sitting pretty much more better position than the Yankees are, and if that's not even crazy enough, the Pirates even have Miguel Andujar on the team. And actually not as high profile as Judge being out or Giancarlo Stanton, but Yankees kind of got a blow from out of nowhere. So Jonathan Loaisiga, who has been dealing with a sore elbow for a while, never really got it going this season and kind of been out for a while. Well, it turns out he's going to need to be shut down for a while. So going to have a surgical procedure to remove a bone spur from his elbow, and of course, because of that, he's going to be shut down until at least you're looking about August, September, if that. So Loaisiga, who was someone like, again, I think he stepped up big time during last season postseason run, kind of really matured in front of our eyes, and you're hoping maybe he could kind of fill that Chad Green role that now Green has bolted in, for Toronto, that you would figure Loaisiga could step up and be that guy, but of course now he's going to be shelved for a while. Again, they're saying about August, September, so even if he comes back, I guess, he could be there in some way. If you trusted him last season, the postseason, you could trust him again, but you would like to see him pitch a whole season there, kind of get a little seasoning and kind of get ramped up and really fill into one of those, 7th to 8th inning roles there right now for the Yankees, who are kind of grasping for straws. And talking about the bullpen, there's something definitely going on with Clay Holmes there. You see with Boone being very trepidatious in using him, not using him as like go-to 9th inning guy all the time. Now we go back to the Toronto series, the game where the Yankees at least won the second game there. Well, Holmes actually pitched part of the 8th inning. Then they brought out Wandy Peralta and actually had Wandy Peralta try to close out in the 9th. Now he would surrender a game-tying home run. Now the Yankees win that game thanks to some heroics from DJ LeMahieu. But it's just the fact that he didn't use Holmes as his last guy. And you see with Boone, especially in that Texas game, the one game that the Yankees won in Texas there, had Michael King come out. Now you got a call strike 3 to get out of a jam in the 7th. Now let King go for the 8th. You figure, all right, well, he finished out the 7th, let King go to the 8th. But then 9th inning, you would think they would bring out Clay Holmes there to do that inning. But no, he actually kept King in there. And King was rolling, and King actually, had a nice 9th and ended the game with a strikeout. Great and all that. But, you normally use King at most for 2 innings. Now, even though you face one extra batter, but still for the 9th inning, a clean 9th, you would want to have Clay Holmes out there if he is your closer that you do. Now, he has 4 saves on the season. He has been knocked around a little bit recently. But you've seen overall, Boone being very, cautious in using him, very spacious in using him. And again, the way that the Yankees closed out April in bad fashion, it's not like the Yankees were in a lot of positions where they needed someone to close the game out. So used inconsistently and not used always in his guaranteed ninth inning role there. So seems something up with him. I don't know if Boone, maybe if there's a confidence issue with him, whether it's Clay Holmes not confident or Boone not confident in Clay Holmes, or is Clay Holmes still going through that kind of mystery shoulder injury that he had for the better part of the second half of last season, and Boone's is really being sparingly using him there. So remains to be seen. I mean, he's not on the IL. They haven't even talked about him being hurt, but there's definitely something in the air. So we look at this Yankee team, again, the lack of hitting, the lack of a bench, the lack of a fluid lineup. And, obviously, Yankee fans are going to go to, of course, Hal and Brian Cashman and Boone. You want to blame someone, but as you could imagine, all the, I guess I say the bulk of the blame seems to be go towards the direction of Brian Cashman. Again, he got the 4-year deal to start the season. So, of course, obviously he's on the hook for all this stuff. And, a lot of these decisions, this is Brian Cashman's team. Again, not to go after someone like a Carlos Correa, for example. A couple of years ago, not make the big trade for Matt Olson, who ended up going from Oakland to the Atlanta Braves. Maybe the Yankees could have done a deal with that instead of going for Rizzo. But nevertheless, this is the team. This is Cashman's team. So, of course, he's taking the brunt of the ire from Yankee fans. So I figured, we've done this in the past. We look at some fan tweets, and I've kind of reacted to them, whether I agree with them or not. Now, again, overall, I've said this many times, I lean on more. I'm more of a Brian Cashman fan. Yes, he's been here for a long, and I know he hasn't had a championship since '09, and the championships he got in the late '90s, some of it had to do with him, but also he had a team that was kind of ready-made to go. So I know all the criticism, but overall he does make good decisions for the team. Again, everyone loved him last season when this team was, again, when he had Matt Carpenter, hitting home runs left and right, and even a couple of weeks ago when he pulled Franchi Cordero out of nowhere, and he looked like Babe Ruth for a while there. So he's had his hit and misses overall, but nevertheless, so I figured. So I went into Twitter, I searched Brian Cashman. Of course, Yankee fans had a bunch to say, so obviously I'm not going to mention the handle and like that or who the person is, but I did take their exact quotes, and I'll read them to you now. Now, normally I do it I print out some piece of paper, but we want to save the environment, so I'm just going to read them right off the tablet here. So I got me some Brian Cashman quotes, so we'll see leading off here is this first one. So, Brian Cashman can't control injuries, but he is in control of finding better pieces than IKF or Willie Calhoun. I can't disagree with that person there. So, Willie Calhoun, we never really got into him because it's kind of small potatoes. The Yankees picked up in the offseason. He was with the Texas Rangers for a while, and you've seen him there. Again, nothing great. And, you figure the New York Yankees with Willie Calhoun, I mean, he barely cracks a highlight, doesn't really do anything for this team. And, of course, IKF, I know they tried to put him in center field there because he lost his shortstop job to Volpe. But IKF, again, he actually been decent in center field. A couple times he had to hold your breath a little bit, but he ends up making the play. He's probably actually been a little bit better than Hicks, actually. You want to talk about that in center field. But even kind of fluffer, not hitting well this season, only about 200. So, yeah, it's a fair statement. Yes, you can't blame injuries on Brian Cashman, but it doesn't seem like the backups are really there for this team, the reinforcements. And, okay, IKF was on the team, but Willie Calhoun? So I kind of agree with that person. So we'll take the next one. It's a little bit of a shot at Hal as well. So Hal has 0 titles. George was here in '09. Well, that's true, even though George, mentally was kind of gone, but technically, 2009, George was here. Resetting luxury tax plus chicken tenders over championships. Cashman is 0 with the core 4. Well, kind of correct there. So this person's kind of talking about that, Hal's really less concerned about building and bringing and having a winning team, and more about this kind of the Yankee Stadium amenities of the new stadium and having chicken tenders there. And Cashman, well, I mean, I don't really know about the 0 without. I mean, 0 without the core 4. I mean, that is kind of true. I mean, again, since '09, Cashman has won a championship, so you could do that. But of course, Cashman, is responsible. He was the one who wanted to bring Mark Teixeira in there. He's the one who brought in Nick Swisher in there. So those two were responsible for the championship as well as unloading for CC and AJ Burnett. So yeah, I mean, Cashman without the core 4 has won a championship, but also Cashman did have some input in that 2009 team. So a little give and take there. Next one up. Brian Cashman built this mess. He should answer for it. This is on Boone. I'll agree with them there. Again, I don't think Boone's the world's greatest manager. Again, I think managers in general, like, if you have a good team, you kind of put it on autopilot. And Boone, his first 2 seasons here, again, he won 100 and 103 games collectively. Again, the Yankees have made the postseason every season Boone has been at the helm there. But again, I would blame more the GM than Aaron Boone. I mean, Aaron Boone can only do so much. I mean, you could put put the lineup any way you want, but if no one's hitting, then really there's not much you could do. So, yeah, I would blame Cashman more than Aaron Boone on that. Brian Cashman literally did nothing to a lineup that got smoked, sold y'all 21-year-olds, and y'all took the bait. Y'all, we did. Yes, but we were all excited in spring training. I mean, we all wanted Volpe up to start the Major League team here. We wanted to see Peraza. We were excited about Oswaldo Cabrera last season coming this season there. So, yeah. Were we? I don't think if they sold us on it, but you know, they rather go with something like Volpe versus unloading $200 million on Carlos Correa. Now, look, most Yankee fans wanted that. I wanted that. I don't think Cashman sold a bill of goods, but they just wanted to go the direction of like, all right, other teams are using their youth, like you see what Houston did with the Pena there at shortstop. Well, let's try our youth. So I'm okay. You know, you can't go back and fix everything, but you know, at the time I agreed that the Yankees going with the younger guys like Volpe just to give it a shot, try something new. Again, you got time the rest of the season. I know April's didn't look good, but you got a long way to go. We just remember last season the Yankees almost had 2 seasons. Well, there's a chance again for some of these guys to really step it up a little bit, and I'm okay that the Yankees went with the youth movement there. And mentioning Carlos Correa here, the next one. Think about the fact that Corey Seager, Freddie Freeman, Matt Olson, Carlos Correa, Matt Chapman, and Kyle Schwarber were all available one offseason ago, and Brian Cashman settled for Anthony Rizzo, Josh Donaldson, and IKF. Well, okay, well, first let's break down a little bit. The Donaldson and IKF one wasn't like we wanted them. It was this part of like, we just wanted to get rid of Gary Sanchez. And IKF is almost like a throwaway. I mean, he's options this year for $6 million. After he'll be gone, who cares? And Donaldson, okay, he's been a disappointment overall like that. But again, I think if they're shelling out a lot of money for like a Carlos Correa or Freddie Freeman or Corey Seager, especially Corey Seager, like with the big money he got, good chance maybe you're not bringing back Aaron Judge. So, you know, I don't think any of those would have made it different. Let's say we had Freddie Freeman here instead of Rizzo at first base. Let's just say we had Matt Olson at first base versus Anthony Rizzo. Would that make much difference right now? No, because Higgy is only hitting like 170. Hicks is still hitting like 130. You know, IKF is only hitting 200. Judge is out. So I don't think if you had one of those players in here, it would make much of a big difference. And, of course, let's say Carlos Correa came here. Now, Correa this season didn't hit his first home run of this season until the Twins visited the Yankees. So imagine him going almost half a month. Yankees give him a lot of money and has 0 home runs. Yankee fans will be flipping out. So now that you want Correa, so I'm not agreeing with that tweet right there. So let's go to the next one here. So if Brian Cashman can't build a champion team with a $280 million, then the problem isn't how Steinbrenner spends, it's how Brian Cashman spends it. Okay, well, saying like, look, Hal's putting up the money, Cashman's not doing it too well. Again, we all wanted Judge back at $360 million. The Rondon deal seemed really good, even though he was kind of an extra there. Everyone wanted Rizzo back there, and again, the Yankees got him at a relatively friendly deal at only age 32, even though with the bulky back. So everyone kind of was on board with these moves, but now that Judge is hurt, Rondon is hurt at the start of the season, Rizzo's kind of tapered off a little bit. Now all of a sudden, everyone wants to criticize the moves. We're all pretty much on board with all those off-season moves. I don't think anyone not wanted Rondon and wanted Judge to go there. So not sure what that person's talking about. Now Cashman, just as mentioned before, signed a 4-year deal. So any idea that Hal's going to sort of fire him and then pay him for another 3.5 years, you got to be out of mind that. So that's not going to happen. It would have to take this team to be totally decimated by July for Cashman to for Hal to pull that sort of the axe on Cashman like that. So Cashman's probably at least going to be here for the first and probably even second year of that deal before Hal would again even consider just to pay him to cut him to sit at home. He's not going to again have a guy work for 2 years but pay him for 4 years. So any fantasy that Cashman's going to get fired or something like that and clean house, not happening. So he's here for a bit. So that's where the Yankees are right now. Things can get a little bit better again. We're seeing Volpe hit a little bit more, so I think that's one positive takeaway. And again, you just look at this Judge injury. It's a hip strain. Doesn't seem anything too serious. So once he does come back, and as well as we get Severin and Rodon and Beta back, things can be a little bit more normal.